Alright, so in this video what I'm going to do is basically make it so that our player can shoot an object, right? Just more like tossing an object. It's not going to be like a gun or anything, just like throwing like a grenade or a projectile of some sort, okay? So just like a toss. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do first is we need to have an object that we're going to toss. So I'm just going to create a 2D object, a sprite. This is just going to be my object. I will name it projectile. I'm going to zero this puppy out so it's right on center, just so I know where it is, which apparently is right where my player is. I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to grab a graphic. Now, you can do whatever you want for your projectile. I'm just going to have this thing here, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit. And I'm also going to scale it down a little bit like that. Great. Okay, so that's going to be a projectile. It's just going to be a littler version of my guy, which will make a little more sense. Yay. Okay, so now what I need to do is just set up so that when he shoots, it will, when he shoots, that he will shoot this object. Okay, so this will be my projectile object. So now what I need to do is actually go to the script, because that's where all the good stuff is done. So we're going to go to the player controller script. Just go ahead and open that up. And it went over here. Okay. And we're just going to need a couple of variables in order to make this work. So I'm just going to do new section. First thing I'm going to need is the object I'm going to shoot. So it's going to be game object. All right. I'm going to make it public so I can drag it on there. And we'll just call it the shoot object. That'll be the object I shoot. The next thing I'm going to want to put is I'm going to do a float, and it's going to be shoot interval, because I don't want to have it that I can go click, 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 and just shoot like infinitely, like a million at a time, right? Because that would just be ridiculous. So I want to be able to, like, you can shoot like, and I can choose what the intervals are. Okay, so it's just going to use a float, and it's just going to be shoot interval. And then I want the speed of what I'm shooting. So I'm going to do both the Y and the X. Because we're going to be shooting it outwards, I want it to start by going up a little bit, not just forward. Okay, you could do forward and just do a whole lot so it just flies across the screen. But I'm just going to go ahead and do both. So we're going to do another float, shoot X speed. And then we'll do a public float, shoot Y speed. So that'll be my X and my Y speed. And then in order for some of the other stuff to work, we have to add two other variables, which we're going to make private. So private float, and it's going to be shoot time. So what this is going to do, shoot time. What this is going to do is keep track of the time that we shot last. So I'm going to keep time of when I shot last, and then that will be stored in shoot time. Okay, but I don't need that readily available. And then I need another private variable that's also going to be game object, and it's going to be shot object. Now you might be like, well, don't we have shoot object? So shoot object, that's where we're going to source from. Where every time we shoot, it's going to say, oh, grab that object and shoot it. But that's going to create a new instance of it, right? But once it's in the scene, it's an object itself. That's where game object shot object is going to be. So every time I create it, every time I shoot it, I'm going to call it shot object, so that way I can apply the forces that I want to shoot it out. Okay, so that's why this will be the name of the instance of the shoot object. Okay, so that's how that's going to work. So first thing I want to do is just go ahead and store in my start. I'm just going to go ahead and store shoot time, and I'm just going to make it equal to time.time. Okay, so we're just going to say set the initial shoot time to 0, more or less is what it's going to do. But whatever the current time is, that's what it's going to be. All right. So there goes that. All right. So now we can actually do the shooting. And it's going to be kind of like this one, the jump one. So I'm just going to do it right after this one. And it's going to be like this. Okay. Okay. So we're just going to do an if. And we're going to say input dot get button down. So when you push down, you don't want to have it on get button, because get button will be on while you're holding it down. If you just do get button down, it means when you push it down, if that makes sense. And we'll say, okay, so get button down, and the button we want to get is going to be fire 1, okay? And just so you get an idea of what that is, if we just go to Edit, Project Settings, you'll see Input, and then, I'm just going to minimize this, you'll see Fire 1, and I'm just setting this up as my fire. So whatever key you want right now is set to the left control. You can do right control, you can do a different key. It's also set to the mouse click, left mouse click. See how its mouse is 0? I think 1 is probably right. I don't really know. That'd be my guess. But anyways, it's set to left control. That's what I'm going to leave it at that. But that's where I'm getting this number from. Just like we did horizontal axis and we did jump for the other ones. The same basic concept. Okay. So, where are we at here? Oh, right here. So we're going to say, if you shoot, then we're going to go ahead and do our business here. Okay. So what I want it to do is basically we're going to do shot object, because remember that's made the object, and we're going to set that equal to, and this is where we actually make it. So we're going to instantiate. So what instantiate does is basically it creates an object, and it needs 3 things. It needs the object that it's going to instantiate. So in this case, it's shoot object. Remember we put that up there. Okay, so that's what I want to instantiate. It also needs the position of where it's going to create it, and I'm just going to have it do it at our current position. So I'm just going to do transform.position, okay, which is going to do it right in the center of the person. If you want to do it offset, you're going to have to do like transform.position X and then, you know, whatever. But I'm just going to do position, so it's just right there. I don't really care that much. And then it needs the rotation, and we're just going to do quaternion dot identity, and that just means it's going to set it to 0. Okay, so now every time we hit control or we hit the fire 1 key, which is control, it's going to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to save it so you can see that it works. We can close this out, and I need to go to my player, which is, oops, come on, open up, come on, open up, there we go. Go to player. And you will now see that player controller script, it needs that shoot object, and it needs this stuff too, but we didn't actually put this in there yet. You'll see this in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead, and we're going to do this actually too. So I'm going to go to the project. I'm going to go to prefabs, and I'm going to put the shot in here because I want to project it from there. So I'm just going to go ahead. Now it's a prefab, this projectile. So I'm going to go back to my player. And I want that to be the thing that's going to shoot. So I'm just going to click and drag it up into there. Okay, so now that's the object that'll shoot. And we'll hit play. I should probably delete that one just so you don't get confused. And now when I click, you can see he spawns, right? And but you see I can click and just make a million of them, which isn't really super helpful. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this so he's not in the way. All right, so I need to fix a couple of those things. We'll go ahead and do that. But the other thing, the reason why I did shot object, if I did just instantiate, it would do the exact same thing. But by doing shot object, we're assigning it the value of this. That means that anything I do to shot object now will apply to the thing that just shot. And that's why we did it like that. Okay? So, after that, what we're going to do is, oops, in here. After that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say shot object dot get component. And the component we want to get is a rigid body 2D. Okay. And on that rigid body 2D, we're going to apply a force. We're going to do add force, not far, force. And the force is going to need a couple of things as well. So it's going to need how you're applying the force, so the X and Y. So we're going to go ahead and do a new vector 2. And it's going to need the X, so it's going to be shot X speed, or shoot X speed, sorry, and then the shoot Y speed. Okay, so that's how. So whatever we put in X, that's how much it's going to push outwards, left and right, and shoot Y is up and down. All right, so that's good. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and do a force mode 2D. Dot impulse. Basically, impulse will make it pop as opposed to just like kind of push. All right, so it'll just give it a little more gusto than it currently has. And I think that's good on that. So let's look to see what we have now. So again, you're going to select the player, and we're going to have to add, up here, we need to add the force. So we'll just say, let's do 10 and 10 just to make sure it's working. And then we'll hit play. So it should shoot up in like a 9-degree angle. Oops. There's no rigid body 2D. So what you'll notice is my prefab here, the projectile, I never added a rigid body 2D to it. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. So rigid body 2D. Boom, now it's got it. It's trying to apply that force we just did, but there's no rigid body attached to it. Okay. Now we'll hit play. And now you see, whee, flies around there, right? So a couple problems though. What do you notice? It's always shooting to the right, which maybe that's what you want, maybe it's not. I don't want that. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it so it shoots to the left as well. So let's fix that. Okay, so what we're going to do is this. If you remember, the way that we have it turning left and right is we say if the input axis horizontal is less than 0, meaning we're pushing on the left arrow key, it's going to turn the sprite renderer, the flip X, to false, which if on my player, the graphic here, you'll see that there is this flip X, right? So basically if I push the left, it turns this to false, or right, I'm sorry, and if I push left, it puts it to true. So that's how we're doing it, but that's not going to really work here because that only works while we're pushing it. So I could do the exact same thing, this horizontal thing, but what's going to end up happening is that if I'm not pushing left or right, it's just going to shoot in the one direction. So I wanted to, shoot in that direction without having to hold the key down, just based on the direction I'm facing. So we're actually going to go ahead and use this part of it. So I'm going to grab this flip X, okay, Control C, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say if Control V, get component in children sprite renderer dot flip X. So if you remember, flip X is a true or false. It's either being flipped or not being flipped. So if it's not, if it's true, basically, I'm gonna have it. Grab this here, middle mouse button, click and drag it up there. Boom! It's gonna do this. Else, where I'm just gonna copy and paste this. Control C, Control V. Else, it's going to shoot it, but instead of positive X speed, I'll put minus shoot X speed. So it'll do the opposite. And then we'll just save that. Pop back over here, and I think it'll be backwards actually, but I'll just show you how to fix that in a second. Come on. Boop. All right. Hopefully it still plays. Okay. So you can see it does work, but now he's shooting it out of his back, which is no bueno. So all we gotta do is just switch out the minus. So I'm just gonna take the minus out of here and put the minus in here. So voila. Now the other problem is I can still shoot like as quick as I want, which isn't really what we want. So we're gonna basically fix that now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep track of when we shot last. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say shoot time is going to be equal to, actually, even before we do this, let me do it up here first. We're going to say you have to fire, and I want to say that the time dot time, so the current time, is greater than my shoot time, okay? So basically, if the shoot time, if the current time is greater than my shoot time, then go ahead and fire. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up shoot time every time we fire. So we're going to say shoot time is going to be equal to time dot time. So we're going to make it equal to, let's say I just shot, it's equal, we're going to say this time right now. So we're going to say it's going to be equal to the current time plus that shoot interval. So basically, if we take shoot interval, let's say we make it 2 seconds. If I shoot now, it's going to say whatever time it is currently plus 2 seconds. So 2 seconds into the future, that's my next shoot time. So if the current time becomes when that next shoot time is, that will allow it. So that's going to basically allow us to not shoot incessantly. So let's go ahead and save that. Go in here. And make sure you still have the player. We don't want the player graphic. We want the player thing here. Come on, player. There we go. And we're just going to do shoot interval, and let's just do 2 so we can see it's working. You're probably going to want more like a 0.25 or something, like a quarter of a second. But you can see I can shoot. I'm clicking. There goes another one. So it's every 2 seconds is how often it lets me shoot. Okay? So that's how we keep it from just, shooting like infinitely super fast. All right. So for all intents and purposes, that basically works. You would just want to add other things to the projectile to make it kill the enemies and that sort of thing. But I'm not going to be too concerned about that right now. All right. Good. So the other thing you might want to do is just add the animation to it. So I'm just going to grab my player graphic. Click on the animate. You can see I have these animations. I'm going to go to animation, and you see on the player graphic we have idle, jump, walk. I'm just going to create a new clip, and I will just make sure that it's underneath animations, and we will call it player shoot. Okay? And I'm just going to add a property. You probably already know what it is. Sprite renderer. Add the sprite. Make sure I'm record mode. I'm going to delete that one, the last one. I'll make sure I'm on this one. Okay, and I'm just going to go here, and I would put the full animation. I'm just going to do 1 frame because it's a little bit easier. So I'm just going to have it that he basically goes like this. You can't really see it, but he goes like that. And then I'm just going to make sure I'm going to Control-C to copy that keyframe. And I'm going to have it go for, let's say, 0.5, like that long. Okay, and I'll hit play so I can see it. That's how long it's going to take. Okay, so it's pretty fast. I'm going to end record mode. So good. Now I have my other animation there. It's obviously just a single frame, but it's good enough for what we need. So now if I look, you'll see I have player shoot. Now I want to be able to shoot when I'm not moving. So I'm going to right click, make transition to here. Right click, make transition to back. Let's do that again. And I also want to be able to do it while I'm walking, because why not? Make transition, boom, and make transition, and boom. Okay. Now we have to decide how we're going to do the transition. Now, if you remember when we do the other ones, when we're not in the air is when we're in player jump. And when we're on our x-axis is moving, the left and right buttons, or left and right joysticks, whatever you have, determines player walk. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a Boolean for player shoot. We'll just say if shooting, do this. So I'm just going to click on this. We're going to go ahead and go to bool, and I'll just say shoot. Okay? All right. So what we'll do is we'll say from player idle to this. Our condition will be if shoot is true, do that. If shoot is false, go back. Same thing here. Basically, if shoot is true, and come back to player walk if shoot is false. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is on the ones that are going to, I'm going to go ahead, God bless it, there we go. I'm going to turn off exit time and fixed duration. I'm going to turn those off, okay? And also on the player idle going this way. Not on the way going back, because I want it that it has to play the animation on the way back. But on the way to, I don't want it to have to finish whatever the current animation is. So I'm going to turn those off. So it's only the arrows going down to shoot, not the arrows coming back. Okay? Now this isn't going to work yet because we have to turn this variable on and off. So I'm going to go back to my script. And on the bottom here, we made this player animation thing. And you can see we already have this set bool. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay? And paste it. And we'll just do set bool. And the bool, if you remember, was called shoot. And I'm just going to give it a value of basically it's going to be input.get button down. And the button we're going to get down is going to be fire 1. I think that should work. So basically, if this is being pressed because this is a true or false, then go ahead and, do it. So just save that, go back here, go over here. Let's just, go to scene or something. All right, let's go to console. Okay, I'm going to hit play. Now when I click, you can see the animation happens. Yeah. It's a little bit slow, but you get the idea. Yay. Okay. Might need to, let me see, let's go to the animator here, and let's take this and just make sure that's all the way collapsed again. So the ones that are coming down, take this and make it all the way, make it all the way collapsed so there's no transition, basically. This somehow didn't get turned off. I thought I did that. Okay, so that, and then collapse these so that player shoot just happens. So that might help. It's still doing the transition. There we go. Now it's immediate. Okay. Great. Yay. All right. So that's basically it. So you can just save your game, and now you have your character shooting. And we're going to use this in the next little bit here so that it makes sense.